So yeah, lads, the WNBA is heading towards a lockout. We can be completely honest here. It's very much heading towards a lockout or a work stoppage, and I don't care about my semantics. I really don't care about the semantics because at the end of the day, whether it's a lockout, a strike, a work stoppage, I don't know. I don't know which it's going to end up, but work stoppage is probably the most correct way to describe it. But it sounds like all ships are heading towards work stoppage being a thing.
The WNBA is on fire and not in a good way. While headlines praise new teams and rising viewership, star player SATAU SABALY just peeled back the curtain. And what she revealed is setting off alarms from locker rooms to boardrooms. Her blunt claim that the league's growth is a facade and current players are being sacrificed in the name of expansion. She called the latest proposal from the league a slap in the face. What exactly is going on behind the scenes? Is the WNBA growing too faster, hiding something much worse? Let's break down what SATAU just exposed.
And this is one of the weird things when it comes to SATAU, or when it comes to this take, is that all the new teams, they specifically went to teams that were NBA ownership groups. They specifically went to NBA ownership groups because the NBA ownership groups have a lot of the facilities there. They have the ability to link the teams. They have the NBA arenas. They have the fan base. And by the way, like, this is what they originally tried to do in the 1990s. And it worked to an extent, try to bring NBA fans over.
When SATAU SABALY took the mic, she wasn't vague. She didn't sugarcoat it. She called the league's latest proposal from the CBA negotiations exactly what it felt like, a slap in the face. In that one sentence, she shattered the illusion that everything was fine inside the WNBA. Fans see sold-out games and rising television numbers. But the players? They see instability, disrespect, and systemic neglect. Sabaly's frustration echoed what many players have whispered for months, that the league's expansion has come at the cost of the players already holding it up. New franchises in Philadelphia and Detroit sound exciting on paper. But according to Sabaly, they come before fixing real issues like increasing roster spots, investing in facilities, and treating veteran players with respect. How cool would it be to have a little bit of expansion on the rosters, she asked. That question, simple on the surface, hit a deeper nerve. Because while the league adds flashy new teams, they haven't addressed the overcrowded, underpaid, undersupported conditions of the players already in the system. Teams routinely max out with just 11 players. Injuries mean hardship contracts, and hardship contracts mean instability. Sabaly's bigger point? Expansion sounds like progress, but it's become an excuse. An excuse to ignore teams that, as she puts it, find excuses continuously to lack investment into their players. That line wasn't a throwaway, it was a direct call-out. She's saying, stop chasing headlines. Start fixing the locker rooms, training facilities, and financial security of the people you already have. And here's where it gets even more revealing. Sabaly points out that the league's expansion targets are no coincidence. The new franchises are going to NBA-affiliated ownership groups. Why? Because those owners already have arenas, facilities, fan bases, and clout. On one hand, this looks smart to tie women's teams to existing men's infrastructure. On the other, it exposes which teams are being left behind. Teams without NBA partners are losing ground. They don't have deep-pocketed owners or billionaire backers. And according to Sabaly, those are the teams struggling the most to offer decent resources. She sees the trend clearly. The league is reinforcing inequality under the banner of expansion. Yes, the league is growing, but only for the right cities, with the right money and the right partners. The rest are left scrambling. So what is Sabaly really warning us about? That expansion is being used as a smokescreen. The growth headlines are masking the lack of investment into current players. And by pushing new teams into well-funded cities, the WNBA is deepening the divide between have and have-not franchises. In that light, her call to focus on the players in our league right now isn't anti-growth, it's pro-stability, pro-player. She's saying, take care of your foundation before you build new floors. But Sabaly's words didn't just shine a light on internal division. They sparked a bigger question: who benefits from expansion? Because it's clearly not the athletes grinding every night to make the current league sustainable. But it's not just about expansion, it's about who's being left behind.
We really have to put an emphasis on the players that are in our league right now, but I love to see the league growing. I think, adding these teams in Philly and Detroit, that's how amazing is that the league can grow, but how cool would it also be to have a little bit expansion on the rosters. Let's focus on the teams that have everything set up right now, and maybe focus on the teams also that find excuses continuously to lack investment into their players before we focus on adding more to the grain of people that can't really be sustained.
There are two WNBAs known. Everyone inside the league knows it. One WNBA is expanding, thriving, and pulling in media buzz, celebrity endorsement deals, and packed arenas. It's glitzy, well-funded, and tethered to powerful NBA ownership groups. The other WNBA? It's struggling. These are the franchises barely holding on, quietly trying to compete while dealing with underfunded facilities, inconsistent fan bases, and minimal national recognition. SATAU Sabaly's comments didn't just call out the problems with expansion. They pulled back the curtain on this growing divide between the elite and the ignored. Take the Golden State Valkyries, for example, a brand new franchise tied to one of the most powerful NBA teams in the world, the Golden State Warriors. Before they've even played a single official game, they've sold out all 10 of their home games. Why? Because they're backed by the Warriors' infrastructure. Affordable ticket prices have welcomed in thousands of families who've been priced out of men's games. And Sabaly notes this directly. When the cost is right and the team is accessible, fans show up in droves. Compare that to teams like the LA Sparks or Connecticut Sunday. The Sparks, once one of the league's premier franchisees, are now considered by many insiders as a poverty franchise. Years of inconsistent ownership, limited resources, and dwindling performance have left them scraping for attention. The Connecticut Sunday are in such financial trouble that they're actively seeking buyers, unable to keep up with the escalating investment demands of a fast modernizing league. This isn't just a coincidence. There's a systemic pattern forming. Teams without NBA ownership or proximity to men's league infrastructure are being left behind. They can't keep up with the arms race for better locker rooms, training centers, marketing budgets, and branding power. And as Sabaly pointed out, the WNBA's latest expansion decisions are only reinforcing this disparity. The new franchises are all being handed to NBA-affiliated cities Philadelphia and Detroit among them. Why? Because they already have the structures in place to host and promote a team quickly and efficiently. On the surface, this makes sense. But underneath, it signals a troubling trend. The league isn't lifting all teams, it's picking winners. And in doing so, it's pushing out long-standing teams that help build the league from the ground up. Courtney Williams once mentioned that the Sun at least had their own locker rooms, a bare minimum expectation treated like a luxury. That tells you everything. Players on some teams are working in conditions that feel closer to high school sports than professional basketball. Meanwhile, teams like the Valkyries are being handed branding agencies, media deals, and cross-promotional access to NBA fan bases. This imbalance has serious consequences. Competitive fairness becomes compromised when half the league is training in world-class facilities while the other half rents public gyms. Player development is stunted, injury recovery slows, morale drops, and perhaps worst of all, the disparity feeds resentment. Players on underfunded teams know exactly what's happening. They see the red carpets rolled out for new franchises. They watch the investment pour into expansion teams while their own arenas remain outdated and their facilities second-rate. Sabaly's comment struck a nerve because she voiced what many are too afraid to say publicly. Expansion is great, but not if it means current teams get left in the dust. And here's the real kicker: those struggling franchises, they're not benefiting from expansion at all. They're not the ones drawing in new money, new fans, or new partnerships. In fact, they risk becoming obsolete in a league that appears more interested in chasing fresh headlines than preserving its roots. If the Valkyries get valued at $500 million, great for them, but what happens to the Sun or the Sparks? Their value doesn't rise automatically. If anything, the contrast makes them look worse, not better. That brings us to the heart of Sabaly's message. Expansion isn't evil, but it must come with a plan to uplift everyone. Without that, the WNBA risks becoming a league of haves and have-nots, and once that separation takes hold, there's no turning back. But that growing money isn't trickling down, it's being used to tighten control.
Focusing on what she stated for real is the slap in the face. Oh man, I wonder what that proposal was.
Behind all the talk of expansion, facilities, and flashy new teams lies a much more basic and far more urgent demand: roster space. SATAU Sabaly didn't just critique where the league is heading. She raised a blunt, concrete issue: teams need more players, period. And the WNBA's refusal to budge on that seemingly simple issue has become a symbol of the league's deeper dysfunction. Currently, many teams carry just 11 players. That's not a typo. While NBA teams routinely field 15 with two-way contracts on top, WNBA rosters are bare-bone. If a team drops below 9 healthy players, they're granted a temporary hardship exemption. That means they can call up someone, but only temporarily, and only under very specific injury-related conditions. It's a band-aid for a broken system. Sabaly's point is that it shouldn't be this hard to simply have enough players. Her suggestion to expand rosters isn't radical, it's logical. The WNBA could easily allow 15-player rosters, especially as league revenues grow and new teams are added. Yet the league has resisted. Why? Money. According to estimates, adding 3 minimum salary players per team would cost each franchise around $180,000 per year. For a professional sports league, that's pocket change. But to the WNBA, which still operates at a financial loss across many franchises, it's treated like a deal breaker. And that's where the tension lies. The league is investing millions into expansion, new facilities, brand deals, cross-promotion with NBA partners. But they won't commit less than $200K a year to give players breathing room? To avoid situations where exhausted starters are playing 38 minutes a night because there's no one else on the bench? It's not just inefficient, it's dangerous. Sabaly knows this. Players across the league know this. Smaller rosters mean more minutes for fewer players. More minutes lead to more injuries. And in a league already riddled with ACL tears and major rehab cases, this isn't a sustainable model. The disconnect couldn't be clearer. League execs to growth, inclusion, and opportunity. But the product on the floor suffers because of outdated roster policies. Sabaly's comments make it clear. What good is adding teams if the core structure is still broken? What Sabaly exposed is that the resistance to roster expansion isn't about feasibilities, it's about priorities. The league could do it. They choose not to. And that choice tells players everything they need to know about where they stand in the bigger picture. There's also the question of competitive integrity. With such tight rosters, one injury can tank a team's season. There's no depth, no development system, no buffer. It's not just bad business, it's borderline negligent. Expansion doesn't fix that. Roster investment does. Sabaly isn't alone in raising this concern. Multiple players, including veterans and rookies, have echoed this demand. But each time it comes up in CBA negotiations, it hits the same wall. And now, with the league trying to fast-track expansion into more NBA cities, it feels like a slap in the face to the ones who've been carrying the league through lean years. And here's the contradiction no one wants to say out loud. The same league that brags about growth is telling players it can't afford to grow rosters. That's not a resource problem, that's a values problem. Players aren't asking for the moon. They're asking for stability, health, and safety. They're asking for the basic dignity of having full teams and sustainable minutes. Sabaly's demand isn't anti-expansion, it's pro-player survival. She's saying, fix the cracks before you build more towers. And it's not just about the players on the bench, it's about the future. Young talent gets squeezed out when roster spots are limited. Promising rookies don't get chances. Veterans are discarded early. The entire pipeline suffers. That's not growth, that's erosion. So while the league parades new markets and shiny logos, Sabaly's words ring louder. Give us space, give us support, give us the tools to succeed. Or stop pretending this is about progress. But this is about more than roster sits, about war over control. In every labor dispute, there's a wild card, someone with the power to tip the scales without even being in the room. In the WNBA's current CBA standoff, that wild card is Caitlin Clark. She's not on the players' union board. She's not in negotiating meetings. She's not publicly campaigning. And yet her presence looms larger than any contract or committee. Because when it comes to leverage, no one in the league has more than Clark right now, and that's exactly what makes her absence so unsettling. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Clark is the most popular player in the WNBA, and it's not close. She's a ratings magnet, a ticket seller, a merchandise machine. Her rookie year brought in a tidal wave of attention, from casual sports fans to corporate sponsors. Every game she plays is a sellout. Every move she makes is headline news. In short, she is the WNBA's economy. And yet she's been iced out of the most important discussion happening in the league: how players get paid, protected, and prioritized. While union leaders posture for a new deal, Clark isn't at the table. She hasn't even been invited. That silence speaks volumes. Why? Because Clark's power is disruptive. Her popularity doesn't come from internal politics or veteran status. It comes from the fans, from the numbers, from undeniable momentum. That kind of organic power threatens the old guard, especially when it's not beholden to the traditional hierarchy. Including her in the CBA negotiations would mean giving her a voice. And right now, some of the most influential voices in the union don't want that. There's evidence everywhere. Despite Clark's immense contributions, like personally advocating for spot bonuses to reward teammates and pushing for better player conditions, she remains sidelined. The union hasn't embraced her. Many veteran players have been passive-aggressive at best, hostile at worst. And the All-Star voting snub, where players ranked her 9th despite fans making her the #1 vote-getter by a landslide, shows the depth of that resistance. But here's the twist. The union needs Clark more than she needs them. If she threw her full weight behind the CBA talks, she could shift public pressure overnight. She could call out ownership. She could galvanize fans. She could expose the economic realities that the league would rather keep quiet. And that's exactly why some believe there's a quiet campaign to keep her out of it. Meanwhile, Clark's supporters are growing louder. They see the irony. The one player who's injected more money into the sport than anyone else in a decade isn't allowed to help decide how that money gets spent, and where she's being targeted by the very people who benefit from her rise. The leverage is there. Clark could break the deadlock. But if the players don't want her help in, if ownership sees her as a wild card, it creates a power vacuum. The longer she's kept out, the more unstable the entire negotiation process becomes. And let's talk incentives. The current union leadership includes several players with equity stakes in Unrivaled, the upstart offseason league. Their goal? Build a competing platform that gives players more control. But there's a dark theory gaining traction that if the WNBA season collapses due to a work stoppage and Clark joins Unrivaled, the valuation of that league could triple overnight. It's speculative, but not unrealistic. And it adds another layer of tension to Clark's exclusion. Is it about unity or is it about fear? Because if Clark decided to walk, or worse, shift her loyalty to another league, the WNBA wouldn't just lose a player, it would lose its gravitational center. So now we have a bizarre paradox. The most powerful figure in the sport isn't negotiating. The union that claims to fight for players' rights is ignoring the player with the most public support. And the league that thrives on her image is hoping she stays silent. Clark isn't a villain. She's not even a radical, but she represents change fast, sweeping, uncontrollable change. And for a league still figuring out its identity, that's terrifying. Whether she chooses to step into the ring or not, one truth remains. Clark has the leverage. She can shape the narrative. She can redirect the money. And until she's fully recognized by both sides of this labor war, the WNBA will remain caught between the past and the future. And here's where the conspiracy theory hits overdrive. Now here's where everything takes a strange, almost conspiratorial turn, and it's gaining traction fast. Behind the CBA deadlock, behind the call-outs, and behind the sudden spike in tension across the league, there's a theory spreading like wildfire in fan circles and even among insiders that a canceled WNBA season might actually benefit some of the league's most powerful players. At the center of this theory is Unrivaled, the flashy new offseason league owned and operated by several top WNBA stars. Marketed as player-first, fast-paced, and media-savvy, Unrivaled is built to compete with international contracts and offer a domestic alternative for off-season play. But what if it's more than just a side hustle? What if it becomes the backup plan or worse, the replacement? Let's follow the money. Several WNBPA players hold equity stakes in Unrivaled. That means their net worth is directly tied to its success. If Unrivaled thrives, they profit. If it fails, they don't. And what's the fastest way to increase its value overnight? Get Caitlin Clark to join. One appearance, one commitment, one viral clip. Clark's brand power alone could send investor interest and valuation through the roof. Now consider the timing. The CBA is reaching a boiling point. Rumors of a lockout or work stoppage, if you want to use the sanitized term, are everywhere. Players are publicly stating they'll sit out if demands aren't met. Others are hinting that rookies deserve more, that charter flights are non-negotiable, and that the old ways of doing business won't fly in this new WNBA era. But here's what no one's saying out loud. What if that work stoppage is convenient? What if forcing the league into a shutdown gives Unrivaled a golden window to dominate headlines? Think about it. If there's no WNBA season and Unrivaled becomes the only show in town, that's a media bonanza. Players with equity get triple exposure. Sponsors flock in. And if Clark jumps ship to Unrivaled during a WNBA pause, game over. Suddenly, this isn't just a labor dispute, it's a chess match. And the scariest part? The league may not be able to stop it, because the WNBPA doesn't need all players to walk out. They only need enough to derail the season. The teams most financially vulnerable, like the Sun or the Sparks, can't weather prolonged absences. They're already struggling to keep pace with NBA-backed franchises. A single season lost to protest might be enough to collapse them entirely. And in that collapse, the new era fueled by Unrivaled could rise. From a coal business perspective, it's genius. Painful, but genius. Cancel a season, drive fans to a new product, watch your equity explode. Caitlin Clark becomes the jewel of a league the players own, not one where they answer to underfunded boards or penny-pinching execs. It's a theory, yes, but theories have roots, and we're seeing plenty of them sprouting. Top WNBPA members own pieces of Unrivaled. Multiple players are publicly floating season shutdowns. Clark is being excluded despite holding the league's biggest marketing power. Expansion is moving fast, but player pay is frozen. Union demands sound righteous, but conveniently push the league toward instability. No one's saying this out loud, no one's writing it in headlines, but the pattern is there. And Sabaly's comments, intentional or not, have poured gasoline on this narrative. Because her message wasn't just fix the rosters, it was stop pretending this is normal. And if the league won't listen, some players are fine with blowing it all up. Whether or not the season gets canceled remains to be seen. But the motivations are real, the math is real, and the threat is very real. The league is at a crossroads, and some of its brightest stars might secretly be building a new road of their own. So where does this all lead? The drama within the WNBA hasn't gone unnoticed. Fans are paying attention, so is the media. And what's unfolding now is more than just a labor dispute, it's a full-blown identity crisis. For the first time in its modern era, the WNBA is being forced to reconcile its two public faces: the progressive, inclusive league it claims to be, and the politically fractured, profit-chasing machine it's quickly becoming. The first signs of fracture came from the fans. Many were elated by the league's growth, especially with the surge in Caitlin Clark's popularity. But as reports of player tensions, locker room divides, and union cold shouldering surfaced, fans began to feel alienated. Supporters who came into the league through Clark or Aaliyah Boston suddenly felt like they were rooting for a team under siege. Instead of promoting unity, the league's silence on key controversies only deepened the divide. Then came the media. What started as glowing coverage of sellouts and increased viewership turned more complicated. Outlets began questioning why the most impactful player wasn't being embraced. Why were the veterans throwing shade? Why were internal conflicts spilling onto social media? And why, above all, was the league letting its biggest opportunity to grow slip into chaos? This has forced the WNBA into an uncomfortable position. If it tries to defend the players' union, it risks appearing out of touch with fans who see Clark as a hero. If it sides with expansion rhetoric and Clark's brand, it alienates longtime veterans and destabilizes the union. The league's attempt to play neutral is backfiring because in a narrative war, silence is a statement. Even more concerning is what this means for the brand identity of women's basketball. For decades, the WNBA has marketed itself as a symbol of empowerment, solidarity, and sisterhood. But this current situation contradicts that image. It's now a story of gatekeeping, resentment, and corporate chestnut the inspirational, team-first image fans were sold. Younger fans, especially those new to the league, are noticing. Many are already questioning if the WNBA is ready to truly grow. Is it prepared to handle stardom on Clark's level? Is it willing to evolve for the next generation? Or will it protect the status quo until the league collapses under its own contradictions? Social media hasn't helped. Every clip, every tweet, every side-eye is analyzed. Players' passive-aggressive comments are turned into headlines. And as the narrative spirals, the WNBA's PR strategy looks increasingly reactive instead of proactive. Instead of leading the moment, they're being dragged by it. The real danger here isn't just a canceled season or a toxic locker room, it's the erosion of public trust. If fans begin to feel like the league doesn't respect their voices, or worse, that it's ignoring its most impactful stars to protect outdated power structures, they'll check out. And once you lose fans in women's sports, it's hard to get them back. This is the fallout Sabally may not have intended, but certainly helped ignite. She told the truth. And now that truth is unraveling the WNBA's carefully constructed image. Whether the league can rebuild either, whether something new rises in its place remains to be seen, the WNBA stands at a dangerous crossroads. SATAU Sabaly's words pulled the curtain back, revealing a league fractured by inequality, resistance to reform, and looming chaos. Players want more, owners want control, and in the shadows, Unrivaled waits with open arms. Caitlin Clark, the league's brightest star, holds the real leverage, but she's been locked out. Expansion might be the headline, but the real story is power, profit, and the players plotting something bigger. The next few months will define the future of women's basketball. And if the league doesn't act fast, the revolution won't be televised, it'll be streaming somewhere else entirely.